In today's Leeds news, under-21 results, Mullen called up by Scotland, Leeds inform new Everton owners of intention to sue, and press conference reaction. Hiya folks, Cher here on the 3rd of October, Tuesday the 3rd of October with your Leeds United news. The press conference part of this is in the second half of the video. There'll be a little transition that will separate the two of them there. So if you're not here for that, that's okay. We can get the news out of the way first and we'll start off. Also, the one a week, if you want to support the channel, we've just passed 18,000 subscribers. So massive thank you to everyone who's helped with that. And if you want to help support the channel, you can like and share the video as well as subscribe to the channel if you want to do that. Right, let's move on. That's that out of the way. Let's start off with the under-21s. We talked yesterday about their result at the weekend. It's now worth talking about the result last night. Michael Skubala did say that the international tournament has now added something new to the development of the under-21 players when we interviewed him last week, and basically pointing out that having to play a weekend game, midweek game, weekend game, midweek game, and only having 2 to 3 days rest between games will help them in the development when it comes to stepping into professional football, which is more regularly 3 games in a week, especially with championship teams. But they aren't dealing with it particularly well. A 2-0 defeat last night to Wolverhampton Wanderers in what is Leeds' second back-to-back league defeat after a very positive result in the Premier League International Tournament in midweek against Nice, who they won in that game. Didn't start well for Leeds. Scoops did speak during the week to us about the need for Leeds to start games better and start games quickly, and when they have been successful this season, they have started brighter. It seems to be a thing in both teams at the moment, just this little period of time we're not starting games particularly well, and that was the case for the 21s. They found themselves a goal down inside 25 minutes and 2 down inside 37 minutes in a first half that was possession-wise dominated by Wolves, had more to play. Leeds did have chances in that first half, but nothing clear-cut. Went in a half-time probably where they deserved to be in terms of performance in the first half. Wolves were the better side in the first half. Second half was a very different game. Leeds far more in control in that game as well. Sean McGurk, unlucky to see a shot of hit that he took cleared at the last minute by the Wolves defence. And then a penalty that he failed to hit the target with. Charlie Allen hit the post late on in the game as well. So Leeds did have chances, but you can put this down again to, as Scoop said, not starting the game well and having to come back. So there is a good character in this group of players. They have to bounce back from this again, and they'll be able to bounce back pretty quickly. Leeds will be playing Luton on Friday night at the LNER Stadium in York to try and bounce back from this. So fingers crossed the players can get back to winning ways quickly. So unlucky. Move on. Let's talk about some of the 21 players doing well. Jeremiah Mullen has been rewarded for his incredibly strong start to the season for the under-21 side, and he has been called up to the Scotland under-21 side for their games against Malta and Hungary, which will be taking place later on this month. So massive congratulations to Jeremiah Mullen, who has started the season really, really well for Leeds. So good luck to him in the international games as well. Okay, moving on, let's get to the main story of today. He turns the page because this is chunky. And that's Leeds United's intent to sue Everton should Everton be found guilty of breaking profit and sustainability laws in the Premier League. According to the Daily Mail, Leeds, Leicester and Burnley have all written a joint letter to Everton's potential new owners, 777 partners, informing them of their intent to sue them based on if Everton are found guilty of breaking Premier League spending rules. This comes on the back of a lot of talk over the last 12 months around this situation, and we'll go through it in a bit more detail. The joint letter from the 3 clubs was initially sent to the Premier League, who have acknowledged receipt of the letter and have replied to it as well. They've also stated that they have shared it with the new Everton owners, potential new Everton owners, and the current owners to make them aware of the situation. And the new Everton potential owners, 777 partners, are said to be aware of the situation. The 3 clubs are said to be unhappy that charges were not dealt with last season, and that gave Everton an unfair advantage last season and ultimately helped Everton survive in the Premier League. Also, to add to that, Southampton and Nottingham Forest were also involved with this last season, who both stated that had Everton stayed up, they believed that they would be entitled to compensation. In that, Forest obviously stayed up in the end. Southampton came down with Leeds. They're not listed as a 3 in this. They break down the £300 million claim. It breaks down to £100 million per club of the 3 named Leicester, Leeds and Burnley. So if they are successful, if Everton are found guilty, they will sue Everton for 100 million each, so a combined 300 million legal case against Everton for failing profit and sustainability rules, and by doing that resulting in other teams being relegated. Remember, it did go down to the last game of the season last season with this as well, so we have to wait and see. Everton's charges, for those who aren't aware, relate to their published accounts last season, which basically stated that Everton lost £313.5 million over the previous 3-year period. Profit and sustainability laws in the Premier League state that you can lose £105 million over the previous 3 years. So as you can see from that, it's nearly 3 times the amount that you're allowed to lose that Everton lost. Now, there are some caveats to this as well, it should be said. Have to look down for this. Infrastructure, women's football and community projects are deducted from that. So the building of the new stadium is not included in that. Any investments improving for the women's game is not included in that. And any community project work that they do or youth development work are also deducted from that amount. Also included in this as well are deductions for COVID losses as well. Clubs have been given a little bit extra leeway for any losses due to COVID. Everton claiming they lost £90.4 million due to COVID, which when you deduct that from the 3-year losses leaves Everton at 223 million losses over 3 years, which is still over double the amount that a club is permitted to lose within that period. Everton are due to have their case heard by the independent board in October, so this month, at some point this month, and a decision will be made. Everton could be looking at a points deduction as well as a hefty fine. I think the rules in the Premier League have actually changed from points deductions to a fine, full stop. But I'm not 100% sure on that, and more information on that will come out as and when we know it. But it should be stated that if they are found guilty, Leeds, Leicester and Burnley all intend to sue for a combined £300 million as well, which would not be good news for Everton's current financial situation, considering 7-7 Partners have loaned Everton money right now to continue the club going forward. So it's not a great situation for Everton. Leeds could be looking at getting some money back from this, but not a huge amount. But this has been rumbling on for quite a while. The difference for me on this is you see how quickly the EFL deal with people submitting late fees, late profit and sustainability accounts, or any inconsistencies in them, or any amounts over the amount they're allowed to lose. They act pretty quickly. Premier League seems to act incredibly slowly when it comes to this as well, especially over the last couple of years. There's been a couple of cases. Manchester City's one hasn't been heard yet either, so there's loads of these floating around. So they need to speed that up. They need to get better at that process. If the rule is there and it's broken, it should be acted on. That's it for the news for now, but we're going to transition now into the press conference reaction, and I'll see you in 2 seconds. Right, it's a Wednesday night kickoff against QPR. Gives Leeds a great chance to bounce back against a side that have struggled to score goals and get points away from home this season. As has been said on Phil Hayes' show, QPR, still talking about Everton, QPR have struggled really to make an impact on the championship this season. They're in the lower half of the table, and Leeds will hope that they can deal with a team that will probably come to Ellen Road and sit deep. Daniel Farke was asked about the injury situation for this week, and he basically said there's been a bit of a setback to Stuart Dallas, which we talked about last week when we brought the story about Dallas coming back to full fitness. He's going to get niggles, and they're going to delay him, so he's not in the clear just yet. So he said that a little bit of a setback for Stuart Dallas. He's now back training on his own again, but he's expected to be back in the group within the next week or two, so nothing major, just a bit of a niggle. And there will be more of these. I would expect more of these for the player after the length of time he's been out. Junior Firpo is expected back in training after the international break with the group, as is Jed Spence and Willie Gnonto, which will be 2 huge positives for Leeds to have coming back in after the international break, which is not too far away. On Sam Byram's positioning, so it was asked that Sam Byram probably can't play 3 games in a week. Looking at that situation this week, and he said, well, it's slightly different to last week, whereas there was only 2 days between the games, where now that extra 24 hours and having the early kick-off on a Saturday probably makes it easier. He said it's probably an easier decision for Sam this Wednesday, but it'll be a tougher decision by Saturday because it's back down to 2 days again. So he said it'll be a late decision and a late call on what they decide to do with Sam Byram. I think the smart option would be leave him out of the QPR game when you play him at the weekend. Give him that time to recover. On last week's game, he had a lot of things to say. I'll keep this short and brief today. A lot of stuff was said, but basically he was disappointed with the result. They've analysed the entire team, individuals, performances. They've looked back on it, and basically not a good result, not a good performance across the board for the team. He said that he wants the team to understand the disappointment that he has, but also the disappointment that the fans have. That Leeds United is an emotional club, and the players have to realise that and channel that disappointment from the fans, understand how much it means to the fans, and channel that into a positive performance. He said when the club loses, he gets this he gets murderous thoughts, which I thought was interesting, and he God help anyone who knocks on his door the morning after a defeat, is pretty much what he said. Don't knock on my door. But he said he's super competitive, he wants to win every game, and Leeds need to be clinical in terms of picking their sides as well and picking the best players. He's got some decisions to make on whether he goes with experience over loyalty here, or whether he decides to be ruthless with his team selection and put the best team on the pitch for the QPR game. Speaking about Liam Cooper in this, he said his leadership and bleeding Leeds, he has white blood in his body, add a huge amount to why he's the club captain. He said, but he did say that probably not his best day at the office last weekend. But he did point out that if you look at Cooper's performances during pre-season, he was one of the better defenders and helped add to Leeds' stability during that point. He put his body on the line and actually got injured to make sure Leeds got a result in the first game of the season with that header that he scored. And then being out for a hugely long amount of time, he came back and had a clean sheet when he came off the bench after Joe Rodon's red card, and then backed it up with a clean sheet against Watford. But he said you have to acknowledge it wasn't a good game for him, and he did call out the part where Liam Cooper stepped out, which allows Armstrong to run in behind him. So as well, he's not letting him off the hook. But what he did say is he's very, very important to this group, and his leadership and having that experienced defender on the pitch is important to this group. He did go on to say, because it kind of gets the impression that Cooper's in the team, he's going to play. But then he went on to say that doesn't mean he's guaranteed to play every game. I still kind of feel he'll probably play on Wednesday, if I'm being honest, but you never know. On QPR, he said, look, it's just important for Leeds to bounce back and to take the disappointment from the last couple of weeks and put it back into performances. He said he was very happy with September as a month. The Leeds hadn't conceded any goals until the last day of September, pretty much, and he'd like to carry that back on into October and fix that. So there will be hiccups along the way with this. It was a bad day at the office. I think everyone's kind of acknowledged that. I think we put it down to a bad day at the office if Leeds get a good result against QPR and a good result at the weekend. Leeds need to start putting performances together again before the international break and go into that break on a positive note so they can work on some bits during that, get players back fit, and then come out of the international break and really hit it as a run up until Christmas. So it's an important one. There wasn't a huge amount more in the press conference, to be fair. A lot of the same kind of questions being asked, but it's an important game. It will changes happen to the team. I'd like to see Joe Rodon come back into that team and Cooper drop out. The right back situation will be interesting. Does Jamie Shackleton stay there? Does Luke Ayling come back in? And then the left back situation as well. Does Sam Byron play there, or does he go Shaq there and Ayling on the right? There's decisions to be made. Same with the attacking positions as well. Does Jaden Anthony come in, who drops out? Somerville wasn't great. Dan James wasn't great. Which one of those loses their position, or do any of them? Or does he go into a situation where he just backs all of them and go just, put the same team out on the pitch and go and try and fix the mistakes that he made in that game? The only reason I think Leeds were good in that second half of that game was because Southampton sat back. I think if Southampton had kept pressing Leeds the way Leeds have been pressed, I think it would have been a tougher second half for Leeds. But we'll have to wait and see what he does tomorrow night. But that's going to be that. I'll be back tomorrow for more Leeds news. Thanks as always for supporting the channel, and I'll see you soon. Have a great day. Bye.